AITA for standing by my son after my family tried to exclude him. My name is Laura Penelope, and I have a son named Zeke who is 21. He and I have always been close. We talk about everything, and even though I don't always understand his choices, I've tried to give him space to live in a way that feels right to him. Last spring, Zeke told me he was dating someone named Benjamin. He explained it calmly, like it was nothing unusual. He didn't want it to be a big announcement. He just wanted me to know because he trusted me. I could tell by his voice that he was nervous, but when I smiled and said, "If he makes you happy, I'm glad," his shoulders seemed to drop in relief. I never thought much about it after that. Benjamin started visiting our home on weekends, and he was kind, respectful, and thoughtful. He even helped me fix a leaking sink once. For me, that was enough. I could see Zeke smiling more often, and that was what mattered. I saw a kind of light in him that had been missing for years. But then something happened that neither of us expected. Zeke posted a picture of him and Benjamin at a concert on his private Facebook page. He didn't mean for everyone in the family to see it. He just shared it with his circle of close friends and cousins. But one of his cousins, Kaylee, showed the picture to her mother, who is my sister-in-law, Clover. That's when everything began unraveling. Clover called me first. Her tone was sharp, almost rehearsed, as though she had been waiting for the opportunity. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask how Zeke was doing. She just launched into it. She said Zeke was going down the wrong path, and that I had a duty to set him straight. She warned me that if I didn't tell Zeke to end things with Benjamin, then the rest of the family would have no choice but to distance themselves. I remember sitting there in silence, staring at my kitchen wall while she spoke. The words felt like a hammer striking over and over, but all I could think was, how could she say this about my son? When I finally said, "I will never tell my son who he can or cannot love," she didn't argue. She didn't even try to explain herself. She just hung up. Within hours, a group chat with my siblings lit up. I saw Clover's words copied there almost word for word, except now it was coming from multiple voices. My older brother, Collins, chimed in saying he was worried about Zeke influencing the younger cousins. My sister, Amiri, wrote a long message about how she didn't want her kids around Zeke anymore. She claimed she was just protecting them. Only one sibling, Gail, stayed silent. He didn't send a message of support, but he didn't join in either. His silence was the only thing that gave me a small measure of hope. That night, Zeke came into the living room holding his phone. His face looked pale, his hands shaking slightly. He had seen some of the messages. He asked me, "Am I the reason they're turning on you?" His voice was so quiet, but it carried so much pain. My heart broke in that moment. I told him no, but I could tell he didn't believe me. In the days that followed, the tension only grew worse. Kaylee, who had once been one of Zeke's closest cousins, stopped responding to his texts. When he called, she sent it straight to voicemail. Other cousins, kids who had grown up playing in our backyard with Zeke, slowly disappeared too. One by one, the familiar names stopped appearing on his phone. The silence became a wall. And then came another blow. Amiri messaged me directly. She said that if I really cared about my son, I would encourage him to make things right by ending his relationship. She wrote, "He's young. He doesn't know what he's doing. You're his mother. You're supposed to guide him, not enable him." I stared at those words for a long time, fighting back anger, fighting back tears. I didn't reply right away. Later, I just typed back, "My son is not doing anything wrong. I will not tell him to give up someone who makes him happy." Her response was cold. She wrote, "Then you've chosen him over us." As if that was even a choice. Zeke began withdrawing more. At dinner, he picked at his food. At night, I would hear him on the phone with Benjamin, trying to sound cheerful, but I could always hear the crack in his voice. One night, he admitted to me, "I feel like I ruined everything. Maybe if I just kept it a secret, none of this would have happened." I told him, "Secrets don't save families, Zeke. They just bury the truth, and you don't deserve to be buried." But still, I saw the guilt eating at him. Things finally came to a head during a family video call. It was supposed to be a casual catch-up, but the moment Zeke joined, the atmosphere shifted. Collins cleared his throat and said, "Zeke, you know this family has traditions. You're old enough to understand what's expected." Before Zeke could even answer, Clover cut in, her voice sharp. "This is not just about you, Zeke. You're influencing the younger ones. Kaylee looks up to you, and now she's confused." Zeke tried to speak. His voice shook, but he said, "I'm not trying to confuse anyone. I'm just being myself." That's when Amiri raised her voice. "Being yourself is selfish if it tears this family apart." I couldn't stay silent. I leaned forward and said firmly, "Enough. Zeke has done nothing wrong. If this family is breaking apart, it's because you are putting conditions on love." The call ended shortly after, with more tension than when it began. No goodbyes, just abrupt exits, one by one, until the screen was empty. Since that day, no one in the family has reached out except Gail, and even he has been cautious, sending short messages like, "How are you holding up?" but never pushing too far. Meanwhile, the rest of them have gone quiet. No invitations, no calls, no texts. texts, just absence. It has been 2 months since everything fell apart. At first, the silence was almost worse than the arguments. Zeke kept to himself more than usual, and the family group chat stayed eerily quiet, as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for someone else to make the next move. But eventually, the quiet gave way to something harsher. It started with an email. Clover, never one to back down, sent a mass message to everyone in the family. It wasn't just a casual note. It was carefully crafted, almost like a press release. She announced that she was planning a large family reunion in August, the kind of event where everyone, siblings, cousins, even distant relatives, would normally be included without question. But when I scrolled through the list of names she had written, my stomach turned. Zeke's name was not there, and neither was Benjamin's. She hadn't even bothered with subtlety. It was a deliberate exclusion, typed in black and white for all of us to see. For a few hours after the email went out, I waited. Surely, I thought, someone else in the family would reply. Maybe Collins, maybe even Amiri, anyone. But the replies never came. The silence was so sharp it felt like a knife. Not one person said, "Wait, why isn't Zeke invited?" Not one person asked the obvious question. That silence screamed louder than Clover's exclusion ever could. When Zeke saw the email, I was standing in the doorway. He didn't shout. He didn't throw his laptop. He just stared at the screen, his face pale and blank, and whispered, "Guess that's it." Then he closed the laptop with a quiet snap and walked straight to his room. Later that night, I heard his voice through the wall. He was on the phone with Benjamin. I could only catch pieces, but what I did hear broke me. His voice cracked as he said, "I just wanted them to care. That's all. Just care." The next morning, something unexpected happened. My brother Gail called. He sounded nervous, but determined. He admitted he had been keeping quiet because he didn't want to start a war in the family, but he couldn't keep watching Zeke be treated this way. He invited Zeke and Benjamin to spend the weekend at his house with his wife and kids. His exact words were, "If the rest of them can't accept him, then he deserves people who will." Zeke hesitated at first. He didn't want to force himself into another family space, afraid Gail's kids might treat Benjamin differently. But eventually, he agreed. When he came back home after that weekend, I could see a change. He looked lighter. He told me Gail's kids didn't act strange or cautious around Benjamin. They just treated him like a normal person. They played board games, ate pizza, laughed at movies. Zeke said it felt normal. For a second, I forgot the rest of them don't want me around. But just as Zeke started to heal, the family feud grew sharper. Clover heard about the weekend. She called me, furious, her voice dripping with venom. "So now you're trying to divide us further? You and Gail think you can just rewrite the rules. You're encouraging him, Laura. You're encouraging this sin. Don't you see what you're doing to this family?" I tried to stay calm, but my patience snapped. "The only thing I'm doing," I told her, "is refusing to let my son be punished for loving someone. If that makes me the enemy, then so be it." Her response was cold. "You're choosing him over your family." "I am," I said, "and I'll do it every time." That was the moment I knew there was no going back. Word spread quickly. Collins called me next, his tone full of disappointment. He accused me of being selfish, of throwing decades of family bonds into the fire just to protect Zeke's choices. I fired back that maybe those bonds weren't worth much if they broke this easily. The argument escalated until I finally hung up on him. Meanwhile, Amiri barely speaks to me at all. When she does, it's short, clipped sentences. She doesn't bring her kids over anymore. One night, I heard from a cousin that Amiri told her children they weren't allowed to talk to Zeke if they saw him online. The idea that she was poisoning her kids against their cousin broke something in me. Zeke, for his part, has been quieter. He spends more time with Benjamin now, which I'm grateful for, but I can still see the sadness lingering. Some nights, he'll sit on the couch with me and ask, "Do you think they'll ever come around?" And I have no answer. I want to tell him yes, but the truth is, I don't know. The worst part came last week. Clover posted publicly on Facebook about the reunion, tagging almost the entire family in a photo of the park they rented. In the caption, she wrote, "Excited to celebrate with the whole family this August." The comments section filled quickly, dozens of relatives chiming in with "Can't wait" and "So happy we're all together again." Each one another reminder that Zeke and Benjamin were intentionally erased from that definition of whole. When Zeke saw that post, he didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just said quietly, "I don't think I have a family anymore." And the way he said it, it wasn't anger. It was resignation. That night, I sat awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, realizing something I never wanted to admit. Maybe this won't heal. Maybe my son will never be welcomed back into that part of the family. Maybe we'll always be on the outside now. But here's where I found some clarity. If the cost of keeping my family together is demanding that my son betray himself, then it isn't worth paying. I would rather sit at a smaller table with people who love us honestly than at a crowded one where my son is treated like a shameful secret. Let's pick apart the accusations they're throwing at you. Clover claims you're choosing Zeke over your family. But family isn't just biology, it's behavior. Loyalty, empathy, consistency. If their definition of family requires silence, secrecy, and shame, then you're not betraying family by rejecting it. You're refusing to enable a cult of conditional affection. That's strength, not betrayal. Collins warns about influence. Influence is only a threat when someone is afraid their own values can't stand scrutiny. If Zeke being openly himself herself can confuse the younger cousins. Maybe that says more about how flimsy their parents' teachings are than about Zeke's existence. That argument collapses under its own hypocrisy. Amiri's guilt-laden script about guidance is another trap. Guidance doesn't mean bulldozing your child into conformity. It means preparing him to live authentically without fear. She twists the word into something manipulative, but you didn't buy it. And that refusal to swallow their framing? That's exactly why you're not the antagonist here. Now, humor is a strange bomb, but let's apply it. Clover composing that email like a press release honestly makes her sound less like a concerned relative and more like the CEO of a very dysfunctional HOA announcing new trash can policies. If she spent half the energy on compassion that she spends on formatting exclusion memos, this wouldn't even be a discussion. And Collins with his decades of family bonds speech? Please, those bonds are about as durable as dollar store duct tape. You don't destroy them by standing with your son. They reveal themselves as brittle when challenged by the slightest gust of individuality. Here's the truth. You are not the villain of this story. In fact, the whole Aita framing flips itself upside down here. Because the only way you could even remotely be the Aita is if you caved, betrayed your son, and enforced someone else's bigotry under your own roof. That would have been cruel. That would have been cowardly. And you didn't do it. You held the line, even when it meant losing the larger circle. My suggestion moving forward is not about changing them. You won't. People like Clover thrive on control, and Collins feeds on tradition as if it were oxygen. Instead, focus on building a smaller, truer circle. Gail showed you what real family looks like. Warmth without conditions, presence without judgment. That's where you pour your energy. Let the others stage their exclusionary whole family reunion. Honestly, it sounds like a gathering of folding chairs and fragile egos more than a celebration anyway. And when Zeke wonders aloud if they'll ever come around, you don't need to give false promises. You can say, maybe, but if they don't, we'll still be okay. Because love that has to be hidden isn't love worth heaping. That's the kind of sentence that carries a kid through nights of doubt. So here's my final verdict. You are not the Aita. Not even close. The so-called family drawing lines in the sand. They've auditioned themselves for the antagonist role and nailed it. You're the one holding the only thread of integrity here. And sometimes, yes, that means your table will be smaller, quieter, but infinitely stronger. Because you'll never have to wonder if the people sitting there actually want to see you for who you are. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for refusing to let my ex back into our daughter's life after everything she put us through? My name is Waylon, and I'm 30 years old. I share a daughter, Makari, who is now 10. Makari came into my life when I was barely 20, and I've raised her pretty much on my own ever since. Looking back, I don't think I ever fully understood what it meant to be a parent at that age. I didn't have much guidance, and Ariana, Makari's mother, certainly didn't either. Back then, I was with her, my first serious girlfriend. Things moved fast, too fast maybe. At first, I thought we were building something stable together, a little family of our own. But within a year, it all fell apart. Ariana told me she didn't want to be tied down. She wanted freedom, adventure, and said being a mom so young felt like a prison. She said those words with such conviction that I almost believed she might be right. But the truth was, her freedom came at the expense of our daughter. I tried to hold things together, but one morning, she simply walked out. Makari was barely a toddler, just starting to form sentences, to recognize faces, to trust the world. Ariana moved in with a guy she'd only been seeing for a few weeks, and the ease with which she did it crushed me. It wasn't just that she left me. It was the way she left Makari behind, like her own child was a burden she could casually set aside. I remember sitting in that empty apartment, Makari asleep in her crib, wondering if I'd done something wrong, wondering why someone could abandon her so casually, and why my heart ached so much at the sight of her sleeping peacefully, unaware of the chaos outside. Months passed before Ariana reached out again. At first, I hesitated to let her back in, but I wanted Makari to have a mother in her life. I wanted her to know love in all its forms. But every time Ariana was given the chance, she ruined it. She promised to take Makari to the park, only to cancel at the last minute, citing vague reasons or disappearing entirely. Once, she showed up to pick Makari up and instead took her to a bar where she was meeting friends. I found out only because a concerned parent texted me a photo of Makari sitting on a high stool, looking small and overwhelmed, while Ariana laughed with strangers. I couldn't believe anyone could be that reckless, that indifferent. I had to set firm boundaries. I told Ariana that if she wanted time with Makari, she needed to show she could be reliable. She didn't take it well. She accused me of gatekeeping, of trying to turn Makari against her, of being controlling. But I wasn't controlling. I was protecting my child from disappointment, from instability, from the heartbreak I had seen repeatedly in her eyes when her mother failed to show up. At 5 years old, Makari began asking questions I didn't know how to answer. Why doesn't mommy stay? I had no answer that wouldn't hurt her more than the truth already did. Ariana's life continued to spiral. She jumped from job to job, apartment to apartment, relationship to relationship. Every few months, I'd hear through mutual friends that she'd left one person, started seeing another, and at the center of it all was Makari's name, mentioned casually, like she was trying to reclaim something she had never truly cared for. Meanwhile, Makari stopped asking about her mom. She stopped waiting by the window. She began to accept the reality that her mother might not be a constant presence, and that acceptance broke me in ways I didn't expect. 2 months ago, out of the blue, Ariana reached out again. She sent me a long message on Facebook, full of long explanations and promises. She said she had finally changed. She claimed she had been going to therapy, had a steady job, and was renting a small place on her own. She wanted another chance to be part of Makari's life. I didn't answer right away. I took a few days to think, pacing the living room at night, listening to Makari's soft breathing in her bedroom. My mind went through every moment of heartbreak she had caused, every promise broken, every fear and disappointment my daughter had endured. When I finally replied, I said no. Not now. Makari was happy, healthy, and thriving at school. Letting Ariana come back in and out of her life again would reopen old wounds I wasn't willing to let bleed. Ariana exploded. Message after message flooded in. Texts, Facebook posts. Some even tagged me in public comments. She called me bitter, selfish, cruel. She claimed I was holding a grudge because she had hurt my pride all those years ago. Some of her friends joined in, piling on nasty comments, accusing me of being unreasonable, of poisoning Makari against her mother. Makari overheard some of this through whispers and accidental glimpses at a friend's phone. One afternoon, she came home asking, "Why is mommy mad at you?" That question hit me harder than I expected. I tried to explain gently, but inside I was furious all over again. I wanted to scream at Ariana, to tell her what it meant to hurt a child repeatedly, but I knew that my anger could never be what healed Makari. Then the tension escalated. Ariana started calling, sometimes multiple times a day. She would leave voice messages for Makari, sweet and coaxing, trying to bypass me entirely. She even messaged Makari on Instagram, saying things like, "Your dad doesn't want you to know me, but I love you so much." Makari would come running to me, tears in her eyes, confused, hurt, scared. I had to explain that sometimes people say things they don't mean, and that she had the right to decide how she felt about anyone who hurt her. People started weighing in on me, too. Friends, distant relatives, strangers even. A coworker said I should give Ariana another chance, because kids need their moms. Another texted privately, warning that Makari might grow up resenting me if I kept her away. But I could not forget the nights she cried alone, the mornings she asked where her mom was, the empty promises, the chaos, the way Ariana had put herself first every single time. I couldn't ignore what my eyes had seen and what Makari's heart had felt. The situation reached a breaking point one weekend. Ariana showed up unannounced at Makari's soccer game, a bright, smiling figure waving and calling her name. Makari froze, uncertain, looking to me for guidance. The other parents stared. Ariana shouted, "You can't hide her from me forever." I felt my blood boil, but I kept my voice calm when I approached her. I said she couldn't just appear like this. She snapped, blaming me for turning Makari against her, saying I was selfish and cruel. I had to physically step between them, guiding Makari away while Ariana continued to shout across the field, drawing more attention than anyone wanted. Makari clung to me tightly, whispering, "I just want to go home, Daddy. Please don't let her make me go." Later that night, Makari asked me if Ariana would keep showing up, and I had to promise her that nothing would happen that she didn't feel comfortable with. She nodded, and for the first time in weeks, she slept in my bed instead of hers, exhausted from the day's chaos. Even now, weeks later, Ariana continues to send messages, pleading, angry, sometimes guilt-tripping. "I've changed," she writes. "I deserve to be her mother. You're stealing her from me." Each message chips at me in a different way, but I refuse to let it reach Makari. I've blocked notifications from her on the phone, kept her messages stored separately, documented everything. Makari's peace has become my mission, and I will fight for it with every ounce of energy I have. Updated has been about 3 weeks since I first shared my story, and things have grown more complicated than I ever imagined. At first, Ariana went quiet. No texts, no calls, no Facebook posts. I allowed myself a small sigh of relief, hoping she might finally accept the boundaries I set. For a brief moment, I even thought maybe Makari could have a little calm. But peace rarely lasts when the other person refuses to respect boundaries. Then one afternoon, the school called me. Apparently, Ariana had shown up during pickup time, acting as though nothing had changed. The staff recognized her from the emergency contact list, but because I am Makari's primary guardian, they refused to release her. By the time I arrived, Makari was standing off to the side with one of her teachers, her little hands gripping the edge of the playground fence. Ariana was outside, waving frantically, shouting over and over, "I just want to say hi. I'm her mom." Her voice was loud, desperate, almost pleading, but there was no warmth in it, only chaos. Makari looked small, frozen in fear. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't waving back. She was terrified. That sight hit me like a punch in the chest. I walked over, taking Makari's hand, feeling the tremble in her fingers. "It's okay, sweetheart," I whispered, but my chest was tight. I could see the confusion and worry in her eyes. The question she couldn't ask out loud. "Why does mommy do this to me?" I told Ariana calmly but firmly that showing up unannounced like this was unacceptable. She broke down immediately, tears streaming down her face, shaking her head and yelling that I was turning our daughter against her. A few parents stopped, staring, their eyes filled with judgment and curiosity. Some whispered, others just watched. Makari clung to me tightly, her small voice barely audible. "I want to go home, Daddy. Please." That moment, the way her body curled into mine, seeking protection, stayed with me long after the school gates were behind us. That night, Makari asked softly if her mom was going to keep showing up. I held her close and told her I would never let anything happen that she didn't feel safe with. She nodded slowly, resting her head on my chest. That night, she didn't sleep in her room. She slept in my bed, her little hand in mine, seeking comfort and safety. I lay awake long after she fell asleep, thinking about the chaos Ariana had caused over the years, and wondering how much more I could protect her from without breaking myself. A few days later, an email arrived from Ariana. I didn't recognize it at first. It wasn't an apology, it was another attack. She wrote that I was cruel for denying Makari the mother's love she deserves. She claimed that one day Makari would hate me for it, and then she added something that stung more than I thought possible. "You might have her now, but she'll realize you stole her from me." I stared at the screen for a long time, my hand gripping the mouse so tightly it left a bruise. I didn't reply. I didn't even breathe for a moment. I saved every message, every line of text, every attempt at manipulation. Then I called the school and asked them to tighten pickup protocols. They agreed to notify me immediately if Ariana showed up again. Even with these precautions, the tension didn't subside. A few days later, Makari approached me with her little tablet in hand. "Daddy," she said softly, "I want to write Mommy a message." I paused, unsure. I didn't want her to feel pressured, and I didn't want Ariana to manipulate her again. But this time, I decided to let Makari take control. I handed her the tablet and watched her type carefully, slowly, thinking about each word. When she pressed send, I looked down at her face. She was sad, yes, but there was relief there too. It was as if a weight she had carried for years had finally lifted, even if only a little. Ariana's response arrived within minutes. "You don't mean that. Your dad made you say it." Makari didn't even bother reading the rest. She put the tablet down and said quietly, "Can we watch a movie?" It was a small moment, but it felt like victory. Makari's peace mattered more than anything Ariana could claim or yell. But the drama didn't stop there. The very next day, Ariana started calling the house multiple times. Sometimes she left voicemails. Sometimes she tried sending video messages directly to Makari's school email. She wanted to bypass me entirely, claiming she had the right to speak to her child. One voicemail started calmly, but halfway through, her voice rose, pleading, crying, accusing. Makari came running to me, shaking. She didn't know what to do. I had to sit her down, explain that sometimes people say things they don't mean, and that she could ignore anything that made her feel unsafe. I felt my own heart shatter a little at her fear. Then, the social media chaos started again. Ariana posted vague messages about fathers who keep children from their mothers, and tagged some mutual friends. Soon, comments flooded in, some supportive of her, some questioning me. I saw people calling me cruel, heartless, selfish. It was exhausting. It felt like the world itself was judging me for protecting my child. One afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from Kalia, a distant cousin. She had seen Ariana's posts and asked if I was really keeping Makari from her mother. I typed a careful reply. "I'm keeping her safe. That's all that matters." But the text didn't stop. Adam, a co-worker, called me to lecture about giving Makari a chance to know her mother. Even Kashtan, someone I barely knew, messaged me on Facebook, implying I was overreacting. Each message, each comment added weight, but I refused to respond. I refused to let anyone influence the one thing that mattered: Makari's safety and emotional stability. Then one evening, the tension exploded. Ariana appeared at Makari's school again, unannounced. While I was picking her up, she was shouting across the playground, drawing attention from every parent and teacher. Makari froze, caught between fear and confusion. I approached quickly, taking her hand, shielding her as Ariana demanded that she be allowed to see her daughter. Parents whispered. Some judged me silently, but I didn't care. Makari's small hand in mine was all the clarity I needed. That night, after all the messages, the shouting, and the fear, Makari curled up next to me again. "Daddy," she whispered, "thank you for protecting me." And I realized, despite the anger, the chaos, the constant tension, this was the moment that mattered. Protecting her peace meant being painted as the villain to the world, and maybe to Ariana forever. But for the first time in a long time, Makari felt safe, and that was enough. Let's examine the accusations Ariana and the outside voices are trying to sling at you. Ariana calls you cruel, selfish, controlling. Friends, relatives, strangers echo the same sentiment, insisting that Makari needs her mom. But here's the crucial insight. Parenting is not a popularity contest. It is about safety, consistency, and emotional security. Allowing a person who has repeatedly prioritized their own convenience and thrill over the child's well-being is not generosity. It is abdication of responsibility. You haven't denied Makari a mother. You have refused to subject her to chaos. That distinction distinction is critical because it frames your choices as protective, not punitive. The layers of manipulation Ariana uses, pleading, guilt, public commentary, direct messaging, surprise appearances, are classic tactics designed to force compliance under the guise of maternal entitlement. Recognizing these tactics and refusing to bend shows insight, vigilance, and remarkable emotional intelligence. You didn't let anger, embarrassment, or social pressure dictate your decisions. You let reason and your daughter's emotional health lead the way. That is the hallmark of a parent who is fully present and fully aware. Humor can help put some perspective on this. Imagine Ariana thinking she can stroll into the school like a cameo in a chaotic sitcom, waving and shouting, while you are calmly navigating the logistics of safety and composure. The absurdity is almost comedic if it weren't so stressful. And all those unsolicited critics, co-workers, distant relatives, Facebook commentators. Imagine them holding megaphones in a stadium, pontificating about morality while they've never endured sleepless nights watching a small human struggle with fear and confusion. The contrast couldn't be starker. Your approach, documenting every interaction, setting strict boundaries, shielding Macari from manipulation, is methodical, strategic, and humane. You are not acting out of malice. You are acting in a measured way that prioritizes a vulnerable child over adult ego. That is why this situation is not even remotely a scenario where you are the AITA. Anyone suggesting otherwise is misunderstanding or willfully ignoring the repeated neglect and unreliability you've been dealing with. Looking forward, the focus is clear. Maintain boundaries, continue protecting Macari, and foster autonomy. Let her decide, with guidance and age-appropriate context, how she wants to interact with Ariana, if at all. Control the exposure, control the narrative, and ensure the child's peace and emotional stability are never compromised for adult convenience. Small victories, like allowing Macari to write her own message or sleep safely in your bed, are monumental in the long arc of her sense of security and trust. These moments are not merely symbolic. They are transformative. The final verdict: you are not the AITA. In fact, you are exercising the kind of moral courage that many adults, even those in good families, fail to demonstrate. Ariana's repeated attempts to manipulate perception and bypass your protective measures do not make you cruel. They illuminate the extraordinary responsibility and composure you maintain under constant pressure. Protecting a child from harm is never selfish, and choosing consistency over chaos is never a moral failing. If anything, your situation reframes the concept of AITA. It's not who says no, but who forces a child into harm for the sake of convenience, ego, or social expectation. By that measure, the AITA in this story is not you. It is anyone who assumes a child's well-being is secondary to adult whims. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments, and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out AITA for blocking my family for lying about my wedding. Click here to watch it now.